All right, let's dive into the story of Careem. For millions in Pakistan, that name basically was ride-hailing. It's an incredible story of explosive growth, total market dominance, and then a sudden, massive pivot that left pretty much everyone asking, wait, what just happened? So let's unpack it. So yeah, that's the big question, right? How does a company worth billions, a company that completely changed how an entire country gets around, suddenly decide to slam on the brakes on its main business? The answer is just a fascinating look into tech strategy today. And there it is, the bombshell announcement. This sent, shockwaves through the tech scene in Pakistan. This wasn't just some random app calling it quits. This was a market titan making a huge shift. And to really get why this was such a big deal, we need to rewind a bit and see just how dominant Careem really was. For the better part of a decade, Careeming it was a thing people actually said. It wasn't just a service, it became a verb. It just wove itself into the fabric of city life, making app-based transport and paying with your phone totally normal for a whole generation. It was a game changer, especially for women's mobility and safety. I mean, look at this timeline. It really shows you just how fast they grew. Kicked off in Dubai in 2012, and just 3 years later, they're launching in Pakistan. Then came that massive, headline-grabbing acquisition by their biggest rival, Uber, for an eye-watering $3.1 billion, which of course makes that 2025 decision all the more stunning. Okay, so to really wrap your head around just how big this was, you gotta look at the numbers. First up, the users. 12.5 million people in Pakistan. That is a huge chunk of the population that had this app on their phone and used it to get around. And then you've got the drivers, the captains, as Careem called them. We're talking 820,000 people. That's an incredible number of individuals who were using their own cars to make a living, making Careem a massive part of the gig economy there. And the money? Well, the economic impact was just enormous. In total, $500 million went straight into the pockets of those captains. Think about the impact of that on families and local communities all across the country. And just to put all this into perspective, Pakistan wasn't some tiny little market for them. It made up a quarter of their entire user base and almost a third of all their drivers in the whole region. It was an absolutely critical piece of their empire. So, with all that success, what on earth went wrong? So, it turns out this wasn't about one single thing failing. It was more like a perfect economic storm. A whole bunch of powerful forces all came together at once and made that tough, low-margin ride-hailing business, well, pretty much impossible to continue. Okay, so it really boils down to 4 key things. First, you had this insane inflation. We're talking a record 38%, which just crushed people's spending power. Then you had fierce competition from new rivals with cheaper models. On top of that, the whole economy was shaky, and suddenly, finding global investment money got a lot harder. And look, you don't have to take my word for it. The CEO himself, Mudassir Sheikha, he put it pretty bluntly. He called it an incredibly difficult decision that was basically forced on them by these huge external pressures they just couldn't control. You see, Careem was basically fighting a war on 2 fronts. On one side, their own costs, like fuel, were just shooting through the roof, while people had less money to spend. And at the exact same time, these really agile competitors with cheaper, more flexible models were just eating up market share. They were just getting squeezed from both ends. It was an impossible situation. But here's where the story takes a really fascinating turn. This wasn't them throwing in the towel. Not at all. Think of it as a strategic retreat from one battlefield so they could focus on winning a whole new kind of war. This is about evolving from just a ride company into something much, much bigger. So, say hello to the super app. The whole idea is to be that one app on your phone for everything. Instead of just getting a ride, the goal is for you to order your dinner, get your groceries dropped off, and handle your payments, all from that one single platform. So, they're building this new foundation on services you use all the time, right? Food, groceries, sending packages, and their own payment system, Careem Pay. The goal is to get so woven into your daily routine that you're opening the app constantly, not just when you need a ride. And get this is not about them pulling out of Pakistan. It's actually the exact opposite. They are doubling down. Right now, there are over 400 engineers in Pakistan building this new super app, and they're actually planning to hire 100 more. It's a huge investment in local tech talent. Okay, so after all that, what are the big lessons here? What can we all take away from this wild ride? because there are some key insights here that really apply to almost any business today. Lesson number 1, and this is a big one. Adaptability is everything. You have to be able to evolve. Careem saw that the ground had completely shifted under their feet in Pakistan. So instead of just going down with a sinking ship, they made a super tough call to pivot to a model that could actually thrive in the new reality. All right, lesson 2, use what you've got. Careem figured out that their most precious asset wasn't the cars on the road. It was the 12.5 million people in Pakistan who already had their app. That user base and all the data that comes with it is the perfect launchpad to sell all these new services. And the final lesson, this one's a bit of a reality check. It shows that you can have the most amazing product, a killer brand, a brilliant team, but these huge outside forces like inflation, government policy, they can still overwhelm you. You have to plan for the world outside your own office. And that really brings us to the big, lingering question, doesn't it? Careem's story feels like a preview of what a lot of other big tech companies might face down the road. When your main thing, the thing that made you famous, is no longer working, what do you do next? You can bet other companies are watching this playbook very, very closely.